Would you eat your roommate's leftover scrambled eggs that have been sitting in the pan all day? Or potato salad that's been out in the sun for 12 hours? I hope not. Some foods need a controlled temperature to stay safe. Otherwise, these foods offer bacteria a moist, nutritious environment where they can multiply. If the food stays at an unsafe temperature for too long, bacteria can grow enough to make people sick. Animal foods like meat, eggs, and dairy definitely need temperature control to stay safe. So do cooked plant foods, including vegetables and grains. Once you've cut them, melons, tomatoes, and leafy greens like lettuce and spinach need temperature control. You also need temperature control for seed sprouts and fresh garlic and oil mixtures. Because these foods need time and temperature control for safety, we call them TCS food.
At room temperature, bacteria that cause foodborne illness tend to thrive. In fact, there's a specific temperature range that we call the temperature danger zone. That range is between 41 and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. At 41 degrees or colder, most bacteria are too cold to multiply quickly. At and above 135 degrees, foodborne bacteria get too hot to multiply. Food that needs temperature control can cause foodborne illness if it spends too long in the danger zone. Generally, if TCS food stays between 41 and 135 degrees for 4 hours or longer, you'll need to throw it away. This includes preparation time. Here are a few tips for preparing food at room temperature. Keep TCS ingredients in refrigeration until they are needed. Prepare the food in small batches. Complete preparation as quickly as possible. If the food will be packaged for sale, cool it to 41 degrees Fahrenheit first. The packaging makes it harder to cool the food fast enough.
To know a food's temperature, you need a food thermometer. Most food thermometers have a probe that you insert to take the temperature inside food. Stick the probe in the thickest part of the food because the thickest part takes the longest to heat and cool. When checking meat, measure temperature in the thickest part of the muscle without touching bone. Bone and fat conduct heat faster, so they may throw off your reading. For liquid foods like soups, stick the probe in the center. If the food is lumpy or has egg or ground meat, take the temperature in a few places. How long it takes to get a reading depends on the type of thermometer. Where the probe's sensing area is and how you need to calibrate it may also differ. The best way to make sure you're using a thermometer right is to read the instructions or ask your manager. Also, your thermometer can pick up pathogens when you use it. Make sure to clean and sanitize the probe between each food item so you don't spread pathogens. Do you ever help accept deliveries? You can't take food from just anywhere. All food supplies must come from a licensed business. Like your workplace, licensed suppliers follow rules to make sure that their food is safe. Food from elsewhere may come with pathogens or other hazards. Even with good suppliers, though, food can still come in contact with hazards during transit. That's why you need to inspect food when it arrives. Here's what to look for. 1. The packaging is in good shape. Damaged packaging could result in contaminated food. 2. The food itself is in good condition. For example, eggs and shellfish should be clean and unbroken. If food has a strange color, texture, or smell, it is not in good condition. If there are signs of pests, think droppings, chew marks, insects, and their eggs, the food is not safe and must be rejected. 3. Temperature-sensitive foods arrive at safe temperatures. Cold food should be transported at 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below. The exception is eggs in the shell. They may arrive at 45 degrees or colder. For shell eggs, check the air temperature inside the transportation equipment. For packaged foods, you can wrap a couple of packages around your thermometer to get a good reading. Frozen foods should arrive frozen solid. You shouldn't see any liquid or ice at the bottom of the package or ice crystals on the food. If you do, the food may have started thawing at some point, and you can't be sure that it's safe. If you happen to receive hot food, it should reach you at no less than 135 degrees Fahrenheit. If deliveries don't meet these standards when they arrive, don't accept them. Store cold and frozen deliveries in refrigerators or freezers as quickly as possible. If a temperature-sensitive delivery is left without temperature control, tell your manager immediately.
There are 3 safe options in this scene. See if you can identify them. This is a great method for thawing food, the best if you have time for it. Food can thaw in refrigeration without ever entering the danger zone. The downside? Thawing in the refrigerator takes a while, about a day for every 5 pounds of food. To use this method, you'll need to plan ahead. Yep, you can thaw food submerged under running water. The water should be cold, no more than 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Only use a food preparation sink for thawing, never the hand-washing sink. You also need to watch the time. Thawing in running water may take up to an hour per pound of food. The outside of the food may thaw faster than the inside and warm to the danger zone. Remember that TCS food can't spend more than 4 hours in the danger zone. That time limit includes not just thawing, but also preparing the food afterward. A microwave will work, but you need to cook the food as soon as it's done thawing. Some foods also thaw well during conventional cooking. This method tends to work well for ground meats that break apart as they thaw. It may not work for large, solid foods, though, if the outside burns before the inside reaches a safe temperature. As you can see, there's more than one safe way to thaw frozen TCS food. Choose a method based on the food and the time available.
You've reached what may be the hardest topic in the course. Cooking temperatures depend on the type of food. You'll need to remember 4 different temperatures and which foods they apply to. And don't forget that the inside of the food needs to reach the required temperature, not just the surface. Let's get started. Do you offer plant foods, like vegetables, grains, or fruit dishes, that are kept hot? If so, use cooking equipment to heat them to at least 135 degrees Fahrenheit. Equipment that keeps or holds food hot won't heat it fast enough to stop bacteria from multiplying. The food should be out of the temperature danger zone before it goes into hot holding. Cook eggs for immediate service and intact meats to at least 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Intact meat includes cuts of fish, beef, pork, veal, and lamb. If the meat is ground or injected with flavoring, it is not intact. Meat that is dried. That makes the bacteria harder to kill. If you offer hot-held eggs, cook them to 155 degrees too. Finally, cook all poultry, intact or ground, to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature also applies to steak. Processes that grind or pierce meat move bacteria from the meat's surface to the inside. That makes the bacteria harder to kill. If you offer hot-held eggs, cook them to 155 degrees too. Finally, cook all poultry, intact or ground, to at least 106. Also applies to stuffed meats, stuffed pastas. All food must.
Fresh tomato slices, it needs to reach 41 degrees in 4 hours. When you're working with a lot of hot food, it's hard to cool it fast enough. Use one or more of these methods. 1. Split the food into smaller or more shallow portions. If the food is smaller or has more surface area, it will cool faster. 2. You can surround food in what's called an ice bath. Set the container in a sink filled with ice water and stir the food often to help heat escape. Don't let the ice water spill into the food. 3. You could add ice as an ingredient or stir the food with an ice paddle. 4. If you're lucky, your workplace may have rapid cooling equipment, like a blast chiller. These machines make cooling easy. When you're cooling, the type of container matters. Metal transfers heat faster than plastic, so food in a metal container will cool faster. Leave food open or loosely covered as it cools. If you clamp a lid over it, you're trapping heat inside. Protect open food containers from contamination from above. Once the food is completely cooled, be sure to cover it tightly for safe storage in the fridge or freezer. As hot TCS food cools, it will travel through the temperature danger zone. If it takes too long, bacteria have the perfect environment to start a family, a really big one. Food must cool from 135 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit in 6 hours or less. This happens in 2 stages. The first stage is the most critical, from 135 to 70 degrees. Bacteria multiply faster in this temperature range, so you have to cool food to 70 degrees within the first 2 hours. In the second stage, cool food from 70 to 41 degrees in the remaining time. If you're cooling food that started at room